Ladies and gentlemen, you might be aware, but on Sunday, I will be leaving the UK because the world first race is starting again. And for the final time, as we've now had confirmed by Mr. Ian Hazakostas, there will be no more raids in BFA. We are in the last legs of BFA. Shadowlands is on the horizon, and this means that this last raid will be the last one that I cast until maybe next year if I'm invited back. It's the big ending to BFA, and I'm really hype about it because this raid is unlike... This is going to be a big different one, and I know a lot of people are going to go... Method will be like, we had world first and stuff like that, but the last one of the expansion is always a biggie. Who leaves BFA as the world first? And the cool thing about this is that since the world first race became a thing and so many more eyes were on it and people saw it as viable, so much has happened behind the scenes with other guilds. Like, there's a place for me. We can make a name for ourselves on a world stage and have that happen. And we saw Limit and we saw Red Bull with Limit going against Method last time. We now see Limit have been signed by Complexity. Sponsors are getting involved in a bigger way than ever before because there's money to be made, obviously. And therefore, people want a big piece of that pie. So it's really ramping up. And I'm so happy that I've been a part of it in some small way. To see how it's grown and where it's going, which was a big topic of conversation at the Method party at BlizzCon, where all the guilds were there. We had a version there, we had Limit there, all those guys were there, and we're talking to them, and like, they're seeing the potential. They're getting phone calls saying they want, you know, from these big companies saying we want to get involved with you guys. So to have it ramping up and to have all the guilds from across the world getting ready for this, and the preparation that's gone into it has been pretty intense. So I'm going to be heading out there on Sunday. I have agreed to stay until the end of the race. So hopefully that's within 2 resets. Fingers crossed on that one. Really hoping it is within 2 resets because it's a financial loss for me to be there, like business-wise, because obviously things take a hit if you're not in the office for 2 weeks. So that is a definite thing that's going to happen. So some changes I'm going to do this time is to be streaming when I can from there. It'll be intermittent. I don't have a schedule. What happens is I get my schedule sometimes early, sometimes it's the day before. Changes happen. People get sick, especially when you're talking for so many hours per day. People do get sick and being around so many people. So changes have to be made. So it'll be intermittent whenever I can, and also try to record some stuff from there because I'm awful at it. And I get back from these events and people are like, did you talk to blah, blah, blah? Did you spend time with blah, blah, blah? And it's like, yeah, I did all those things, but I don't put it on camera. I quite like off-camera time, especially when I'm talking to friends and stuff like that, but I'll try and do a little bit more of that in order to keep you guys up to date with what's going on there. Now, let's talk a little bit about it. So all the info is here. It's on method.gg that you can find out what's happening with guilds that are going to be there. So Method... obviously, these are the streamers. These aren't the guys that are going to be in Germany. These are the streams we're going to be able to see. So now, so far, I believe they're going to announce more streams to come. So all the Method guys are going to be streaming a version of streaming, Alpha, Club Camel, Ethical. Really looking forward to Ethical. Following the Oceanic guilds last time was fucking awesome. These guys are really good, so I'm hoping they can move themselves up there because I think they only have a week to raid or something along those lines. I want to get to talking to those guys. Imperative are going to be there, so new guild, TM Sean, Rignaros showing his face again, which is going to be cool. Jitian Hong, who were my favorites last time in the race. I got to cast these guys in the middle of the night. So it is going to be a 24/7 stream, but we've got a lot more point of views this time. I know some people were like, there's no guilds to stream right now, so they've remedied that this time around by trying to provide so many guilds from all over the world. So we have 24/7 broadcast of what's going on with the race. So really looking forward to JTH again. Absolutely tremendous. And Vodka are going to be involved as well, and some bump there about going, as well as way more casters this time around. Some new faces I've never worked with are going to be there as well, so super fingers crossed that those guys are awesome. Let's jump into this then. Let's give me my predictions. Always fun. Always fun. What are my predictions? This is generally based on PTR raid testing. My personal opinion about secret changes that Blizzard makes, which does happen, is after testing they twist and alter some things to try and make it to the right level of difficulty. Of course, one thing we should remember, as we talked about like in yesterday's video with PTR testing, or the day before actually, is that raid testing doesn't give you the full picture. Gives you a little bit, and Blizzard change it after that based on what they've seen from raid testing. So very likely some of these bosses will change. Very likely some guilds that Blizzard was watching used some strategy they hadn't thought of, and they're going, well, we can't allow that, so we're going to have to fix it. All those kind of things. So here we are. This is Ny'alotha, the Waking City. This is where the raid is going to take place. 12 bosses. Let's start with Wrathion. Wrathion could pose a problem in the same way that I forget the name of the boss. The first boss in the Eternal Palace did. I think it was Shivara. Shivara did pose a problem for many guilds. Wasn't a cakewalk. Wasn't a Scorpion. Wasn't a Champion of Light. Wrathion has this slowing mechanic in Mythic. Only takes a couple of screw-ups to really mess that up, because it has a natural reset point, and if you don't take advantage of that natural reset point, you might have characters that are just locked out. More interesting is going to be these pillars that come out of the floor at Wrathion, and they can't be DPS'd in Mythic. In fact, you have to use the buff that only 5 players get in order to destroy them, and you can't destroy all of them. At least in the raid test, you couldn't destroy all of them, so you had to be really tactical and really fast at dealing with that. Which kind of goes hand in hand with this not moving mechanic that the fight has as well. So it'll be interesting to see. I imagine they are going to crush it, because it's the first boss after all. In fact, it's one of the bosses I expect Blizzard to make a little bit easier, even though it wasn't that hard on Mythic, but they might make it a bit easier, so we'll see. Mort, I'm pronouncing this Mort. Some people are calling it Mount. I don't know. I think it's Mort. It's Mort to me, in the UK anyway. Mort is a super easy boss. Really not expecting much to happen here. A little bit of a shame on this one. The mechanics are nice. It's a very fancy, very flashy fight, but ultimately it's not that hard. You stand in a pool, you get out the pool, and you decurse. The Mythic mechanic is the addition of a curse, which when we tested it, you just dispelled it. So you had druids, you had shamans, you had mages, and just decursed it. You had to decurse the whole raid, but I mean, whatever. So I think Mort will fall over. He's going to be one of the easier bosses. The Prophet Skitra. This fight is interesting, but for the top world guilds, I think will pose no problem. The cool mechanic they have here is that the raid is divided in half. So you're either red or blue. I think that's how they're doing it, or purple and red, or purple and orange, or whatever. But the mechanics of the fight, in terms of the phalanx that's going across the room and all that kind of stuff, can only be seen by one half of the raid team. Yeah, it will kill everybody, right? It still does damage to everybody, but only one half of the raid team can see it. They can be crowd control. There's also these ads spawning from the boss, which need to be dealt with, and only one half of the raid can see them. The big twist on this is the intermission phase is the room fills with ads, yet only one of them is visible from both teams. And you have to figure out very quickly which one is the real one. So the blue team will see maybe 8 ads, and the orange team will see 8 ads, but only one of them is the one that both of them can see. We came up with a system that was pretty quick. You can check the Fat Boss guide for that on how Alex dealt with it, and it was fine. We did it really quickly. Yeah, this boss gets more dangerous as the fight goes on. I don't think it's going to be a big problem. It has the potential to be in the last few percent to be a real pain in the ass, but we'll see on that one. Zanesh. I believe this is the football boss. Okay, this is the soccer boss. So potential wall here, but there's also potential for a straight one-shot, because the boss itself is a target dummy. The boss itself is just a target dummy. And the only challenge, really, outside of the football mechanic is to kill it before you run out of people who can do the football mechanic. Which means maybe it's a DPS check, but I don't think so. The mechanic, the whole crux of the fight is, can you handle the football? This could be a fight where we see some guilds just stuck for hours because somebody screws up the football. The next pull, somebody else screws it up, you know? It's one of those. And it's an instant wipe if you do screw up the football. So we'll see on that one. Either a one... this is one of those that's like either a one-shot. It kind of reminds me of Maiden of Virtue, I want to say, in Tomb of Sargeras. It was either a one-shot or you just ended up spending ages there. And it wasn't because you didn't have the damage or the healing. It's just somebody goofed it somewhere. And it ended up a mess. The Hive Mind, hopefully this is a fight they made much harder, because this was a fight we killed in like 20 minutes on the Mythic test. Didn't do anything. It was just AoE fest. It was like, it's one of those fights that has, if I go to the abilities, you can see it's got like a bazillion abilities. And I hate fights like this that have so many abilities, because none of them individually can be dangerous, because they're going to overlap. Which means that if you could deal with these mechanics, there's not really a fight there. There's just so much happening that can't really kill you on its own, that making a blunder means you got hit by one of the things, and that's fine. Like, it doesn't really matter. This is where it could pick up, though. Shut up. Okay. This is the big DPS check. This is the main one, right? And the cool thing about this is you can see it's got stage 1, 2, and 3. Each individual stage is its own DPS check. So it's not like a race to 0% where you can bloodlust the big scary part. All 3 of these stages are scary parts. Now, there's not that much going on other than the fact that the fight will kill you if you don't deal with stage 1 quickly enough. And then it resets, and like if you don't kill stage 2 quickly enough, which is the void stage, that will kill you really quickly, and the same with stage 3. And it also looks like they've changed this, unless the Dungeon Journal's not updated. Stage 3, this Noxious Carapace, was actually stage 2 for us in PTR testing. So they might have swapped the orders around a little bit. Now, this is either just going to be a case of gear, or it goes down pretty quickly. So if the gear and preparation the guys have done, and this will be before they go and do Mythic Plus and Heroic, I expect them to hit Shadar relatively quickly. Maybe a day 1 wall. This strikes me as potentially the day 1 wall, maybe. This could be the fight where the guys will either kill it, and the DPS check required for this ain't that difficult for World First guilds, and therefore they'll just walk over it and move on. Or this is going to be fucking serious, and we're looking at a fight like the Fetid Devourer, where this thing's a fucking beast. An absolute beast, which could be the case. And what happens is in each stage, as each stage lasts longer, it gets faster and faster and faster until it's practically unplayable. Certainly for casters, you can't cast any spells by the time each of the stages reaches their natural sort of berserk point, and then transition into the next phase. So I will say on the PTR, we were transitioning before it got too out of hand, but they might have tweaked it or something like that. This could be a Guam type situation that's really tight. It'll come down to gear, so we'll see what the decision is there. Drestagath. Drestagath is a fight that apparently they retested this fight on Friday. And I know not many guilds took part in that testing because the game's about to come out, and we have tested Drestagath on Mythic before. And the feedback we got from the people who did test it is that they made it way easier. So Drestagath is a room full of adds that has an interesting mechanic that you have to kill an add, and then you have to pick up an orb in order to DPS the boss, but there's not enough orbs to go around. So you have to you can min-max this fight like an absolute monster. I don't think it's going to be the wall, though, but we'll see. Il'gynoth, this could be an absolute bitch. Like, a serious motherfucker. A serious motherfucker. This fight is one that does get harder and harder and harder. It's a 3-phase fight where each time there's 3 pustules, tumors, whatever you want to call them on the wall. And in each stage, you kill one of them. And then once you've killed it, that thing's permanently producing adds. So then in the next one, you're going to kill a second one, and and then you've got 2 of them permanently producing adds, and then eventually you'll kill the third one, and that means you've got 3 of these tumors permanently churning out fixated adds onto players, which are going to be everywhere, absolutely everywhere. Not only that, players are getting debuffed and leaving shit on the floor, they're leaving creep on the floor, and on top of that, you're getting cursed with a curse that changes size, and you have to dispel it visually when the curse circle shrinks. This fight, this is the one I'd watch for. This is the one I would really watch for, because this is going to be the one where the guilds have had to come up with some crazy strategies. How are they going to manage the room filling with creep, because the creep is permanent? How are they going to manage the curses? How are they going to manage all these fixates with these adds going everywhere? Laser beams flying everywhere. The last 20% of this fight, I think, is going to be madness. Absolute madness. And I'll be interested to see how that plays out. Vexiona, this is where it all picks up, by the way. Like, from this point on, I could talk shit about these first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bosses. I think at boss 7 onwards, it's going to get mad. Vexiona potentially could be quite easy. If they haven't tweaked it too much from Mythic, we definitely had a working strategy for this that would have killed us in the hour we were there. I think this is a fight they might turn up and make a little bit more difficult. Can also be a little bit cheesed by 3-tank strategies and things like that, so we'll see. Raden, this is going to be a nightmare fuel. Raden is going to be nightmare fuel. Raden is where, this is the point where the heroic version no longer matters. Like, if you did heroic Raden, that doesn't prepare you at all for Mythic Raden. This is where that happens. And it happens a lot in Mythic, is where the Mythic version of the fight is just not, it barely resembles what happened in Heroic, Normal, and LFR. Raden is one of them. Raden has an entire extra orb that appears. You have to deal with 2 of them at the same time. You have to mix up the order you do them in. You're debuffed, so you can't manage different mechanics at the same time. The raid has to be moving around, which is something you really wouldn't do in Heroic. You just stand still. The raid has to be moving around and doing all kinds of stuff. And then it has a mega DPS check in its second phase. It's only a 2-phase fight. I don't think they've added another one. No, there's stage 2. It's a 2-phase fight, and in stage 2, he's just burning the raid to death, and you just have to kill this guy. So this thing's gonna be mad. This is like potentially Fallen Avatar. Maybe. I hope it is. I hope it's not just been nerfed. It might have been nerfed after the testing because it was incredibly hard. But we'll see where that one goes. Carapace of N'Zoth is an awkward one. A lot of changes on Mythic. We did kill this. I got to the Enrage, I should say, where he was about to die in Heroic. But we did not get to test either Carapace or N'Zoth himself on Mythic. These are completely untested. And there is a lot happening at Carapace of N'Zoth. You can see all these abilities here that keep going and keep going. There's a lot here. And these are all taking... This fight is so cool. It takes place in different stages of the arena. Yet, Carapace... I can't say, but it's safe to say at this point, these 2 are just going to be nightmares. So my prediction is... I'll put my name on it. I mean, what does it fucking matter? It doesn't matter. I think the first kind of wall we're going to see is actually going to be Shadar. I think a lot of the guilds will get past Xanash, the football boss, relatively quickly. They'll have been practicing as much as possible. Shadar could be. But then from boss 7 onwards, I think it's just going to be wall after wall after wall, with Vexiona potentially not being too difficult. Potentially. But that's where I see us going, guys. So, I don't know. This is going to be a race to the death. I mean, there's plenty of opportunity to see a guild go ahead, but that doesn't give them that much of an advantage because the next boss is harder again. Probably a fitting way to end out BFA. We'll see. Some things I'm really looking forward to is, like, what are they going to do with corruption gear? If these fights are mega DPS checks and they're not making it, are they going to push their corruption gear up? When are they going to break to... Because Mythic Plus is so much more important this time around because we don't have Benthic gear, which is just naturally raid BIS and guaranteed. Just filling out, like, 4 slots in some cases. So we are going to see the point where the guys go, right, time to go and get all that Mythic Plus gear. Time to go and see what we can get out of those dungeons. What can we get from Heroic? Let's do the splits. That's going to be a much earlier time this time around, I think, than what we saw last year, which was Method held out. They didn't do their Heroic splits until they were actually super sure they were going to kill Queen Ashara. And I don't think they I think they broke from Mythic Plus on one evening or something ridiculous like that. I think that's going to switch up this time, and it's potentially going to be around Il'gynoth, around Vexiona, where the guys are like, based on what I've seen on the PTR, okay, we need to go and do that. And on top of that, there's some really cool new essences in there, and they're going to want their guys to have that, as well as the Lego cloaks. Now, the Lego cloaks can be taken care of really quickly, but red farming and stuff like that, if they want to get absolutely everything out of it, could be an extra hour or something that they need to go and do. So we'll be paying attention closely to when the guys are like, okay, we need as much gear as possible. So we'll see how corruption plays into it, because some classes are better at dealing with it with others. It's very dangerous. Corruption levels are very, very dangerous. So it'll be interesting to see when the guys are like, we need more corruption on this. It's going to be cool, man. Can't wait to see it. The show starts on Tuesday, I believe. I'm leaving on Sunday because I have media and stuff to do on the Monday, shooting promos and things like that. But then Tuesday, the show starts, and hopefully I will be there in the early days. Fingers crossed. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.